there's this girl who's on this reality show, Molly May.
Yeah.
And she's this big Instagram celebrity, right? And you know how there's this sort of, fight between the different types of feminism and all this stuff. But basically, what happened was the article here is saying Molly May proves the absurdity of girl boss feminism, which is sort of, to be honest, the kind that I always said. I liked girls that were kind of like, hey, I'm going to take over the world and I'm going to fucking
the CEOs.
Yeah, but and some of those girls, all of them dabbled in this stuff because it helped them. But a lot of times they do, like a lot of times the same way everyone that's smart does, like, you got to say a little bit of this stuff depending on what game you're in or whatever, it helps them. But I always respect a fucking girl who's like, making a fucking career. That's why even like the Kardashians and Paris Hilton and those girls who like built those empires, like low key, everyone can be like, they're so stupid. And you go, okay, whatever. Yeah. Then someone stupider than you built a fucking, empire.
Yeah, exactly. And they go, well, they're rich. But you're like, do you know how many fucking people are as rich as them you've never heard of them because they don't do shit? Maybe they don't have to, but they couldn't. It's not like just the only fucking like piece of this pie is just having a bunch of money.
Right. But so wait, are you saying that?
I'm saying that like, yeah, they actually did whether you like it or not, yes, they're rich or whatever, but they still have these accomplishments that they did that like, not because specifically they're rich. It helped them, but there's lots of people who are rich who you don't know about because I'm sure they flop trying to do this shit.
Well, this girl sort of went on this thing, and she was on like a podcast in the Instagram. There was an Instagram clip where she talks about her, big rise to fame or whatever, right? And she goes, "We all have the same 24 hours in a day," she added, and that while she understands that people come from different financial situations, her meritocratic mantra is simple: if you want something good enough, if you want something enough, you can achieve it. And they fucking flipped out on her, right?
Oh, yeah.
She became like, quote tweet, the number one person on Twitter, 1,000 articles. It was just like, man, you know how everything comes with a positive and negative? A lot of girls were able to sort of ride this bullshit. And the negative is like, if you are not completely in line with their message, they'll turn on you like that. And they can't wait.
Yeah. Well, seems to be spouting pretty basic, like, Tony Robbins.
Basic.
Like the Gary V motivational kind of like get after it shit or whatever. But this is like the crabs in the bucket thing where it's just like everybody's just wants to pull her in.
That is some of it. But there's also, people hate messages about how you specifically can do better when they're looking for soldiers in a war. Like the difference is, these people want to talk about how to make people's lives better on aggregate. Yeah. And they want to pick like huge groups of people and say that we only look at demographics on a broad swath. This is how an individual can make their life better. And it's pretty undeniable that when you're talking about, hey, what can people accomplish? Like, what are you more likely to accomplish? Listening to this kind of messaging or listening to messaging about like how you need to, be at more protests or how you need to be,
capitalism's bad, blah, blah, blah.
What do you think's more likely to make you successful on an individual level? And all that it tells you is like, you just have to ignore those people. And no matter what, when you're successful or anyone that's like becoming successful, that's the crabs in the bucket thing where it's like, whatever the reasons, whatever the context, there'll always be a lot of people that fucking hate it.
Of course.
Some of those people will be your own family.
The fucking byline or whatever tag for this thing goes, it's easy to say you can achieve whatever you want if you're rich, white, and conventionally beautiful. But you're like, there's lots of people who have all three of those things who don't achieve what they want.
Of course.
Like the majority
and that have none of those things that are very successful.
For sure. But like the majority of people who probably try something who have all three of those things don't necessarily achieve these things just because of those.
Yeah. But even if you go further than that, where it's like, okay, so they want to look at this and kind of be like, this person's at a disadvantage because of these things or whatever, right? And then you go, okay, even if that's true, even if you say that's true, they're still better off trying, this way than your way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're going to there's like, well, yes, we just don't want you saying it. We only want you to say that they can't do anything. Like you have to go out and be like, I'm just completely lucky and, no one can do anything ever.
Yeah, it's all luck and you're not in control of anything and you have no power.
And anyone who's accomplished anything knows that thinking like that is poisonous.
Yeah, for sure.
It's literal brain poison.
Yeah. But again, these are people who's like make an industry out of like And then on tearing shit down.
Straight up tearing shit down. And on top of that, their whole thing is, they say, what she fails to take into account how, when she's got her $2 million net worth, that it's an exception rather than norm. For most people, various systematic equalities like class, race, disability either hinder your path to success or block it off entirely. Okay. Even if you think all of that, success can mean something different for different people. Like for someone, having a fucking 100K a year job, finishing college, getting a job, 100K, have like a wife you don't hate and fucking raise a family and have a house.
Yeah.
That's like you fucking, you're the most successful person in your.
Yeah.
So
is not a.
It's relative.
Absolutely. And it's different for everybody.
It's different for any, and it's relative to who you're comparing yourself to. Mm-hmm. So if you go, yes, if I fucking am disabled and, not very smart and poor and I was a dronic and all these things. Yeah. If you're comparing yourself and like, but Bezos just did that. Like, even in our industry, it's like you can't compare yourself to people in different industries. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe you will compare yourself to people in the high school you went to. And then you just try to beat the average of your circumstances.
Or just try to just the life that you just want.
Regardless, you'll be better off than if you don't try. Yeah. That's a pretty much guarantee.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
It's not obvious to these people, or it is, and they're operating in bad faith, where they go, "Stop stealing."
Oh, you think they might be operating in bad faith?
You go. Stop stealing our soldiers. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like someone might be in the army, and you go like, hey, dude. There's like a better option. Like, if you do this and this and this, you might not want to fucking go fight this war and die. Like, you know what I mean? In World War II. And then someone goes, hey, what the fuck are you doing? We got this guy hyped up on fighting this fucking fight for us. Yeah. And you go, yeah, but it'd be better for him if he doesn't go fight and die. And you go, I don't fucking care what's better for him.
Yeah. It is interesting because she kind of they're saying like this kind of feminism is adored by many influencers because it champions individualism. And they're like, they are really like, I don't know the exact
is that a crime?
Is that a crime? It is to them.
Yeah, exactly.
But it really reminds me of the whole the year zero stuff in Cambodia. Like there is this element of they're trying to just reset everything to this fucking baseline where everybody is on the exact same level. Like they want a hard reset where you go let's get everybody at the same starting line, then we'll start again. And you're like, guess what? Even if you do that, at some point you're going to have to do this again because people will not be on the same, eventually they'll deviate. You can reset this as many times as you want, but it's not going to stay reset. I don't know.
Yeah. And then it's and then they're kind of saying things, while reality shows like Love Island are known for launching people's careers, it didn't launch Heg. It simply furthered it because she was already popular before that. And they go on and on and on. And before that, she was in beauty pageants. And you're like, yeah, listen, I'll tell you what, for anyone, the more situations you put yourself in, the better chance you are to, do well.
Yeah.
So anyone that's kind of you always know the biggest thing that people that, kind of don't achieve that much too is they fucking just have moving fatigue. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Decision paralysis.
You're always, then because most of the things that you put yourself in these decisions and you try to do things, most of the time it will fail. And you're like, yeah, you're right. That is true. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, you probably will learn more from that action than non-action.
Absolutely. There was actually this, I can't remember what I was listening to, but it was talking about, there was some photography class and, they used it as an example or whatever. But so the class, they basically allowed them to, they basically allowed them where it's one group could only submit one picture and then one group could submit multiple pictures, but the one group picture, it had to be perfect. And essentially what it turned out is that the people who did the multiple, theirs were all better just because they were doing so many, taking so many tries at it.
Interesting.
That they're just by act of just doing so much, theirs at the end were better anyways. And just the people who tried to make this one picture that was the best picture and focus on doing it once, they're was never as good as one of the 1,000 attempts of the fucking people who just did the volume almost.
It's kind of that same thing as when they talk about reps, keeping people safe or whatever too. It's people who put themselves in hard situations or whatever, it gets less and less hard. You know what I mean? And even it makes them, it's less and less hard in other situations too, not just the one that was originally hard. Mm-hmm. But so it all boils down to, it's they hate it really is. You have to protect yourself against these people because you go, they're always going to fucking exist. And you go, what are your goals? And the best thing you can do when anyone tells you anything is like, just evaluate, like, is that actually helping my goal or is that like hurting my goal?
Yeah.
Or is it helping their goal? And that's the bottom line. They want you to help their goals, not your goals.
Of course. You know what I also wonder is, this is kind of not off topic, but because this person is obviously just, their whole thing is just destroying, like they're in they're basically they're basically in just like intellectual demolition or whatever. But like, I actually remember reading something where being in demolition, like in the demolition real industry where you like take down a building, is considered one of the
when you fucking sit on a chair
is considered one of the most satisfying jobs. Because because it's one of the few jobs where you're like, you literally like see, like, you know, the results, like it's instant. It's like, you're like, here's a building, here's your fucking
that would be a satisfying job.
Here's your wrecking ball, remove this building or whatever, right? And so it's like, it's ranked as super high in terms of like satisfaction. I wonder if she derives the same amount of satisfaction.
I bet you she does.
Yeah, like she probably like finishes this article and she's just like, she just sits in it, you know, she goes, this is nice feeling.